Alrighty, good morning everybody. I've decided to come out and give something a bit of a test. I haven't used it yet. I've just opened the package, but wanted to give it a proper whirl out in the landscape. And the thing we're looking to use today is the Nisi Filter Set for the X100V. And I think you can also get these for the Ricoh GR series, but obviously I'm using them for the X100V. And I want to try and turn this camera that's predominantly been used for, general travel, street, recording everyday life, into more of a landscape and a kind of a dedicated travel camera as well. So we're going to add a filter, the Arca Swiss L bracket, and a few other things to see how far we can push this camera into the landscape genre. Alrighty, so the first accessory we're talking about today is this L bracket. So what this does is it just fits to the bottom of the L bracket of the camera here. You get a little Allen key and you just screw it in the bottom there. And what you're doing here, you're doing a couple of things. You're protecting the camera, the base plate and the side plate, which is good if you want to keep your gear in good condition. Pop him in there so I don't lose him. You've also now got an Arca Swiss plate on the side of the camera and the bottom, so you can mount it like this. So you can do a portrait orientation or flip it to a landscape orientation extremely fast. So that's great. You've also got access to your different focusing modes, your battery compartment, so you're not losing anything. It does make it a slight bit bigger, but given the functionality and as a landscape and travel photographer, this is really what I'm after. So a great start. Now the second thing, let's just pop that on the plate here. You can see that's on there really nice and snug. So yeah, so first impressions, really strong with the Allen key there. It's on really nice and secure, so you can see it's not going to move around. And one of the best things is not having to swivel that ball head. You can just unlock it, pop it like that, tighten it up, and now you're in portrait orientation without any hassles. Okay, so the next step in getting your X100V and turning it into a ultimate landscape and travel companion is one of these. So this is the Nisi filter kit for the X100V. Like I said, you can get these for the Ricoh GR series as well, and they're really just designed for smaller lenses. So it's a tiny little filter holder kit that you can get to pop on the front of your X100V, and it has little slide-in filters. I'm going to remove the front lens cap. Just going to put that in my pocket there. So now the lens is exposed, so we do need to be careful. Grab your Nisi filter kit. It's a nice little carry case in there. It's really, really, really well protected. It actually makes it look a lot bigger than it actually is. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to remove this. Let's take my glove off. We need to remove the front ring over the lens. This allows us to get to this thread mount, and we can then put filters and other things on there. So you can see there, I've just taken that front thing off, and please make sure you put this in your bag or somewhere safe, because if you lose it, it's not great. So now you can see this exposed thread mount. You then get your little Nisi filter here, and you just screw this in. Goes really nice and easy there. And you can see there's a thread mount, and now the filter holder moves freely, because you'll want some movement in that, and I'll show you why shortly. We've got again a Nisi holder kit here, and it comes with a multitude of different lenses. So it comes with a natural light filter for stars and astro, and we'll use that another time. It comes with a ND 3-stop filter, and you can see I haven't used these yet, they're still in the wrapping. a polarizing filter, and finally a graduated neutral density filter. Alrighty, so for our first filter, we've got the, try to show that a little bit better, the neutral density graduated filter, and you can see that there it's actually darker at the top and lighter at the bottom. I'm just going to move out the way there so you can see it even better. So you can see there. So what this does is, if I slide it into the filter holder here, it's going to darken the sky, leaving the foreground and the midground kind of untouched. So if you've got skies that are blowing out and it's too bright and you want to try and even out and balance that look, so you don't have to bracket your exposure to try and get detail back into the highlights, then this is a great option for you, and one that I'd highly recommend. The good thing about this L bracket is you've got full access to everything. It doesn't really impede your use of the camera at all. It just helps, you know, with the base plate feature here. So and I'm just going to do a little video just to show you kind of what's happening here. So as I push the filter down, you can see that dark sky kind of coming in, but it doesn't change the foreground or the midground. Alrighty, so you might be wondering what the hell these things are on the top of the camera here. So I told you I was going to go whole hog today, so trying to make this the ultimate landscape and travel setup. So I'm going to try a little bit of everything. So we've got the filter system on the front, and we'll change the filters out in a sec. But we've also got this guy here, which is a cable release. So in previous videos of mine, you would have seen me using the self timer to stop any camera shake. This is something you used to use more on like older film cameras, but Fujifilm has kept the screw mount on the shutter, so you can just use this to focus and then take the shot as well. So what this allows you to do is to take shots, longer exposures, without having to touch the camera at all. You can use this to take the photo. So it's not going to shake the camera around and cause any tripod shake, causing kind of blurriness in some of your photos. It'll keep them really nice and sharp. Okay, and the other little thing you would have noticed is this guy here. Now this is a spirit level for your camera. So instead of turning on the electronic level on your camera, you can use this guy here and you'll get the little bubbles, kind of like a spirit level you'll find at your hardware shop, but for your camera. It just slides in the hot shoe here and it'll actually show you whether you're level on both kind of side by side and front tilt axis. So a great little tool. Do you need it? No, they do have an electronic level, but I quite like to use it because it's just that experience of taking photos and a nice little accessory to have. Alrighty, so that's a brief overview of the graduated ND, and it's probably not the best time, you know, once the light starts to kind of come up and fill the sky, and there's a greater disparity between the foreground and the highlights in the sky. That's when they really come into play. So when you've got sunsets, sunrises, where you've got a really bright sky and a really dark foreground, that's when you want to use that filter. Or if you just want to get, you know, I know that a lot of X100V users are trying to get their shots straight out of camera. So if you like to darken that sky and create that drama, then that's a great filter, because you're going to be able to use those straight out of camera JPEGs with these fine-tuned changes to really get the shot that you want. So the next filter we're going to try is the graduated, the graduated filter is already in. We're going to try the ND filter. So this is a 3-stop filter. And the good thing about the X100V is you do already have a neutral density filter built in. So you can use that, but if you want to start doing some ultra long exposures, then this is where this guy comes into play. So as you saw with the filter before, it had a darker spot at the top, and then it went to a clear filter down the bottom, whereas this one is just the same density all the way through, stopping the light down 3 stops. So what this means is you'll be able to use a slower shutter speed, and you can put that in like that. And the cool thing about this this setup, and I'll turn it around, is it's got 2 holders for your filters, so you can actually put in a neutral density and a graduated density on top of each other, so you can correct the sky and do a long exposure. So how cool is that? So you can actually stack these to get a different result. Alrighty, so I just want to show you what happens here. And you can see I've now put this into a portrait orientation, and I could just, using the L bracket, just swap it over really quickly. I just want to take the filters off the front, and now you can see how overexposed that photo is. So obviously, couldn't take it, have to change your settings, have to boost your shutter speed up. Push this neutral density down. You can just see the sky there becoming nice and kind of well exposed as well. Just by putting in that neutral density, you can literally see it as you're sliding in that neutral density filter. It's pretty amazing what a difference that can make. 3 stops of light. And I'm just using the self timer. 2 seconds. And you'll see what that does is it just softens the water there and makes it really nice. Again, just in color this time, seeing how much difference the neutral density filter makes. Pretty incredible, right? It's a quick tip to remember when you are changing it from a portrait to a landscape type scenario. When you're using filter holders, and I'll just flick it around here, like these ones here, and it could be this set or it could be in any other camera, something you really need to be careful of is making sure that the filters are sitting in line with the lens here, because if I now change to a portrait orientation, I then also need to change my filters into that orientation as well, so they're in line like that. Because if I leave it like this, with the graduated filter on, it's going to darken this side of the frame and keep this lighter. And with a portrait orientation, you obviously want to do that to the sky, not to the side of the frame. So you just need to make sure you give that a swivel around and make sure that that is kind of lined up. Otherwise, you can have major issues with your exposure. So the last filter I want to talk about today is the polarizing filter, this guy here. So this one here is a little bit different to the other ones. The other one's about kind of stopping the light coming into the lens in order to get a longer exposure or that kind of thing. This is your polarizing filter, so you can still see it is darker than just a clear UV filter. And what this is going to do is it's going to stop those highlights, especially when you're looking at water, you're looking at leaves on the trees. You see a lot of woodland photographers using this to kind of cut down those highlights, and it just evens it out and gives you a really nice kind of soft feel to your images, rather than having some really hot highlights in the scene. So, you know, you can also use this for product photography if you're looking to cut down those highlights, or even reflections on glass and things like that as well. So really, really handy filter that I don't see probably enough photographers utilizing. So the one thing I'm kind of seeing with this filter system at the moment, the one thing that I'm not overly fond of is there may be situations where I want to stack all 3 filters on, and I know that's getting a little bit excessive, but you know, would have been nice to have the option to have the ND grad, and the polarizing filter all working together. Unfortunately, that's not the case, so I'm going to have to now choose between the ND and the ND grad in order to get the polarizer on there. So, given the sky's getting a little bit brighter, I think I might take out the ND filter and pop the polarizer in there, so I can dial down the sky and then cut out the highlights in the water. And here we have the, like I said before, the polarizing filter. You can see there on the water now, it's already quite a lot darker. Not like a ND filter, but it does cut out some light. And I'm going to put that one closest to the camera in the first slot, and then I'll have the ND grad on the other side there. And I've just got a video playing on the X100V, and as you can see there, it's just cutting out a little bit of light, but also just taking those reflections down just a touch. This is a great tool if you're looking down kind of into the water and you want to kind of see all the rocks and things happening down there, because this filter here will cut down all of those little reflections in the top of the water and the highlights, and just allow you to kind of penetrate through. It's like wearing a pair of polarized glasses. When you're out fishing on the boat, you'll be able to see, you know, some of the fish you'll be able to see into the water, and it'll just cut down that light that's hitting the top of it. Alrighty, so there is still one filter left, which is the night sky filter, and that just cuts out a lot of the unwanted light that you want to capture all those details of the night sky, given it's not nighttime, and I haven't been able to get any clear sky conditions. I'll do that as a separate video, and maybe take some film cameras out and do some astro using those as well. So we'll cover that in a separate video. But in terms of my initial thoughts using the Nisi Filter Set for the X100V, I think it's a must buy. I think it cost me $144 New Zealand, which is, I'll show the math in the video, but probably, I don't know, about $100 US, which isn't a hell of a lot when you think about a filter system. You know, my other filter systems cost me about $1,000. So this is a very, very good option for something to use for travel and just for general landscapes and a bit of lifestyle type stuff. It's only going to take up a small amount of space in your bag. A couple of the cons, obviously you can't use more than 2 filters at a time. I wouldn't recommend using it with gloves. They are very small and fiddly, so it's, you know, one of its benefits being small is also one of its, you know, it's Achilles heel. It's hard to, you know, move them around and kind of get them in the right slot, but that's okay. Just take your gloves off when you're moving those around. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when I'm utilizing this in the winter and I really need to keep the gloves on. Would I use a cable release like this on my X100V? To be honest, probably not. I wouldn't use one as rigid as this. I'd find one that's really bendy and more of a fabric, and I do have one of those at home, only because this just kind of got in the way and was quite frustrating. So we'd find another cable release if I was going to use one. Otherwise, just use the self-timer. Works perfectly well. The spirit level doesn't really get in the way, so I don't know why you wouldn't have it with you. But again, you can just use the electronic level in the camera and put it onto one of the function buttons. So I guess, you know, if I'm traveling, I'm going to Japan in February, would I take 2 extra accessories for the sake of having them? Probably not. I would just use the self-timer and the internal electronic level. But overall, it's a must-buy for the X100V. Get this Nisi filter set. It works extremely well. This isn't sponsored by Nisi. I'm not affiliated with Nisi. I just believe in this product and think it's a really, really nice accessory to have if you want to get the most out of your X100V and you enjoy doing things like travel and taking photos of places, as I do. And if there are any accessories that you find extremely helpful on your X100V or other cameras, then pop them in the comment section as well, because that might help some of the other members of our community who are looking to create their perfect setup. And in relation to the L bracket, if I had to pick between the two, I think the L bracket is an absolute must-have. I'd buy that first, and then I'd buy the Nisi Filter Set as an add-on. And finally, if you're not a subscriber, please like and subscribe to this video. It's the best way to support the channel, and we've got some exciting stuff coming up. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to Japan in February to visit my sister in the ski fields, which is going to be extremely exciting, and it's going to bring with it a whole lot of photographic opportunities. And I'm hoping that I can set this X100V up to be my main camera, as I don't really want to travel with a whole lot of GFX or X series gear. I'd love just to have this as my main camera, just to capture all of the photographs of the holiday, and just enjoy myself as it is a holiday and not just a photographic expedition. So look, thank you again for watching this video, and until next time, see you later.